Well, everybody, it's the final weekly review of the 2023 NFL regular season, Week 18 to be exact. No offense to Wander Franco. There were some games this week that really didn't mean anything, so I didn't spend as much time on them as I normally would, but there were so many games this week that it's still going to be a pretty long video. I hope you enjoy it, and the video begins right after this. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings. The NFL playoffs are here, and I'm teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official partner of the NFL, who is kicking things off with a huge offer. Throughout the playoffs, all new customers will get $200 in bonus bets instantly when they place their first $5 wager on anything. Get in on the action this weekend by downloading the DraftKings app, and don't forget to use my promo code BARRY. That's right, new customers who bet just $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Wondering what you can use your $200 in bonus bets on? Combine multiple bets together from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. If you already signed up for DraftKings, like me, you can get a no-sweat bet. Get a bonus bet back if your same-game parlay/SGPX bet doesn't hit. Max reward limits apply. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the chance to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code BARRY and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code BARRY only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Pittsburgh versus the Ravens. Oh my God, Mason Rudolph versus Tyler Huntley in one of the most boring rivalries ever. I can't believe it. Anyway, this game was about as sloppy and as messy as you would expect. There were fumbles, not a lot of scoring, just the type of game that people who think the NBA hasn't been good since Larry Bird retired would love. Anyway, the really only exciting play of the game came early in the fourth quarter when Mason Rudolph, who's somehow still alive, threw a long-ass touchdown to Deontay Johnson to put the Steelers up by 7. The Ravens then fumbled because they suck without Lamar, and the Steelers extended it to 10. Notice all the wetness on the screen. That's because all the women in attendance were thinking of Jimmy Garoppolo. Huntley was able to get the Ravens into position to where not Hall of Famer Justin Tucker could kick a field goal to cut it to 7 to set up an onside kick attempt, which failed. This game meant nothing for the Ravens, who already had the 1 seed locked up. But the one bad thing it did was get the Steelers into the playoffs, so we now have to watch the Steelers and their boring-ass football play at least one more game. For the love of God, please do not let them play more than one playoff game. I beg you. Houston versus Indianapolis. The Colts had a long, boring-ass field goal drive to open the game, and then CJ Stroud said, "Fuck this, I'm throwing it deep," for a long-ass touchdown to Nico Collins, which was exciting as hell. The Texans would then pretty quickly extend the lead to 11 after another touchdown pass from Stroud in the end racism end zone before the Colts cut it to 8 at halftime with a long field goal. But Gardner Minshew then motivated Jonathan Taylor to run for a long-ass touchdown and then completed a 2-point conversion for the 8-point drive to tie the game. Colts had a chance to take the lead, but their kicker was a dipshit and missed the long field goal. The Texans kicker would not make the same mistake, although that would come later for him. Colts tied the game again early in the fourth at 17 before CJ Stroud had one of the most impressive drives from a young quarterback in a long time, completing several big boy throws, which led to a touchdown. Remember that mistake I talked about, Houston's kicker? Yeah, bad time to miss an extra point, leaving the door open for the Colts, but unfortunately for Indy and fortunately for Houston, the Colts are dipshits and they couldn't take advantage of it, and the Texans ended up winning to get a playoff spot. Just an incredible tribute to Deshaun Watson's legacy. Cincinnati versus Cleveland. The Browns already locked up a playoff spot, and the Bengals are already eliminated from the playoffs, so that means we get Jeff Driscoll versus Jake Browning, which started off as you would expect, before the Bengals opened up a can of whoop-ass on the Browns backups, going up by 31 points at one point, led by incredible woman respecter and protector Joe Mixon, doing most of the work. But Jeff Driscoll knows how the game works. He knows if he wants to keep getting contracts, you got to pad your stats in garbage time, and he did that with a couple great touchdown passes, which made the final score seem a little bit more respectable than it actually was. Joe Flacco is now looking for his next victim. Playoff Flacco for the first time since 2014. What a treat. New Orleans versus Atlanta. At first, it looked like this game was going to be down to the wire, with the teams exchanging touchdowns, climaxing sloth alert, including a long-ass touchdown pass to Bijan Robinson. But Derek Carr did what Derek Carr does, which is pad his stats in worthless games to make it seem like his team missing the playoffs again is not his fault when he really plays a big part in it. Anyway, the score was tied at 17 at halftime before the Falcons completely crapped all over themselves with turnovers, defensively, offensively. Yeah, it was not a great way to end the Arthur Smith era, who was eventually fired after the game, mercifully after 3 mediocre seasons, but not before the Saints overruled their coach and actually scored a touchdown on the goal line with a minute left with a 24-point lead to make the final score 48-17, but knowing Jameis Winston, we understand that he doesn't care whether or not somebody wants to do something. He's going to do it regardless of what he wants, and that's why Arthur Smith, I feel so bad for Arthur Smith. I don't know how he's going to feed his family without this job. Detroit versus Minnesota. Pretty entertaining game. It started off when Goff found Jake Laporta for a touchdown. Oh, but Goff wasn't done. He then gave the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs, which gave the Lions an early 13-0 lead, but not before the Vikings responded with a field goal to make it a 10-point game. But then the Vikings said, fuck that, we're going to kick another field goal to make it a 7-point game at halftime. It's anybody's game, but then Goff just decided, you know what, we're going to make this a 14-point possession game with another handoff to David Montgomery for a touchdown. But come town Nick Mullins was not done yet, as he threw a marvelous deep ball to Justin Jefferson for a touchdown, climaxing sloth alert. But the Lions answered right back with a long-ass touchdown pass of their own to go right back up by 14. But guess what? Nick Mullins is not going to go down without a fight, as he found Justin Jefferson on a deep throw and then Jordan Addison on a deep touchdown pass to make it a 7-point game. But the Vikings would never get the ball within one score again, as Mullins then threw 2 interceptions because that's just what he does. He's chaotic good and chaotic evil. Basically the white Jameis Winston without the groping allegations. And then there's Dan Campbell. Just what a Sasquatch he is. Just a large human being. Wow, just really kind of stunning. Jets versus Patriots. Potentially the last game of the Bill Belichick era in New England was completely forgettable and boring as shit, as you might expect. There was literally nothing but field goals for the first 3.5 quarters. The Jets had a 9-3 lead with 3 minutes left before Belichick pulled out his last trick, the Marlon McCree card, forcing the Jets interceptor to fumble the ball right back to the Patriots. Unfortunately, Bailey Zappi sucks. He ended up throwing an interception on the same drive again anyway to give the ball to the Jets, and then Breece Hall broke off a long touchdown run, and the Jets had a 2-point conversion, which made it a 17-3 game, which was also the final score, as we see sociopathic MILF Hunter Belichick looking like a Tuscan Raider. End of an era. Wow. Dallas versus Washington. Dak Prescott versus a shitty team went about how you would expect, putting up incredible numbers, but for the first quarter or so, it looked like it was going to be a competitive game, as Washington even took a 10-7 lead at one point, but then it was all downhill from there. The Cowboys ended the game scoring 31 unanswered points as Sam Howell continued to play like dog shit, and Dak Prescott continued to juice his stats to make him seem like a much better quarterback than he actually is. He's not bad, but again, until I see him do something in the playoffs or go on a deep playoff run, I really don't give a shit about all these games that he wins in the regular season with great numbers. He is who he is, and I cannot wait until he messes up in the playoffs and the Cowboys crap their pants again. It's going to be so amazing. Big Mike and his rugged handsomeness walking off field, probably looking for a massage. Kansas City's backups versus the Chargers. There was one fucking touchdown scored in this game, and it was a defensive touchdown early on when Patrick Mahomes willed his defense to force a fumble and return it for a long-ass touchdown to give them a 7-0 lead. They extended that to 10-0, but again, this game was so boring. There was nothing to it except the obligatory Blaine Gabbert interception. How the fuck is Blaine Gabbert still in the NFL? It's pretty ridiculous. He's been terrible for over a decade now. Anyway, the Chargers kicked a bunch of field goals and even took a 12-10 lead with a couple minutes left, but then Blaine Gabbert showed his deceptive athleticism abilities as he ran for a couple first downs to set up Harrison Butker for the game-winning drive, and then Easton Stick ended up doing shit, which gave the Chiefs another win to look better on the win-loss record, even though it had no effect on the playoffs. Can't wait to see Belichick wearing Chargers gear on the sidelines next season. Raiders versus Broncos. A divisional matchup that didn't mean anything in the playoff picture as both teams were already eliminated, but the Raiders came out and took it personally. But the Broncos were ready early on, responding with a touchdown of their own to Jerry Jeudy to make it 7-7. But then the game got away from them as Vegas kicked a field goal, and then Devontae Adams scored another touchdown, inching him ever closer to 100 career receiving touchdowns. Much more deserving Hall of Famer than Devin Hester to make it a 10-point game, as the Jared Stidham-led Broncos couldn't do shit. Jimmy Garoppolo made a cameo, but the NFL highlights didn't show it, and I am heartbroken. Anyway, the Raiders went up by 17 before Stidham did a little bit of stat padding, and the Broncos scored a touchdown to cut it to 10 early in the fourth quarter, but the Raiders then milked the rest of the clock, kicked a field goal, went up 13. Stidham threw an interception in desperation, and oh my god, there's just Jimmy, the most handsome man, the most beautiful man in the world. It's really a shame that you didn't get to see more of him this season. Anyway, the Raiders won. Both teams finished under 500. Nobody cares outside those two fan bases. Rams versus 49ers. Super Bowl champion quarterback Carson Wentz versus Sam Darnold. It's not a surprise who won the game. Even though the 49ers backups went up early, Wentz threw a dime for a touchdown to Puke Nukem to tie it at 7. Darnold then had a sneaky athletic quarterback sneak to make it a 14-7 game. Wentz had a little boo-boo here. It's not his fault, alright? But it didn't matter because the 49ers missed the field goal. However, the Rams offense would be in a lull, and the 49ers would eventually go up 20-7 at halftime. Walk it to him. Wentz, though, was not not done as he threw a great pass to set up his second touchdown pass of the day to make it a 7-point game late in the third quarter. Then the game became a slogfest. Neither offense could do anything, turning the ball over on downs, but then Wentz showed his clutch gene. The clutch gene of a Super Bowl champion as he ran for a touchdown and then converted a super clutch 2-point conversion to give the Rams a 1-point lead. Darnold would have 2 more chances to potentially win and lead a field goal, but he couldn't do either time because he sucks and he has a smushed face, and he ended up fumbling the game away. The only thing Sam Darnold has going for him, besides his ability to see ghosts like the kid from The Sixth Sense, is that his grandpa's name was Dick Hammer. Buccaneers versus Panthers. The best play of the game for Carolina, and really the only good play, was when Bryce Young found a receiver for what probably should have been a touchdown, but the receiver fumbled it out of the end zone like a dipshit, and Carolina would not score any points on the day. Oh darn, I just gave away the ending. Guess what? The Buccaneers won a shitty-ass game where there were no touchdowns scored and missed field goals, and it was 9-0. But guess what? The Buccaneers winning means that they finish with a 9-8 record and win the NFC South again, which helps further my Brady's a system quarterback narrative, because they finished with a better record without Brady this year than they did with Brady last year, and they have Baker Mayfield at quarterback. So all you Brady fans can suck my dick. I was right the entire time. Tom Brady is a system quarterback, and he also has a lot of plastic surgery. Titans versus Jaguars. A game where a team was actually trying to win for once. Jacksonville, I'm talking about. Although you couldn't tell early on, as Tannehill, potentially playing in maybe his final game, threw an unbelievable touchdown pass on a screen to give Tennessee an early lead, which didn't last for very long as Trevor Lawrence threw a beautiful deep ball to NFL Pete Rose to go up by 3. But then Jacksonville's bugaboos came back to haunt them again, as Derrick Henry in his final game as a Titan broke off a long touchdown run. Then Lawrence threw an interception, and the Titans capitalized off of that with another touchdown to go up by 11 points. Lawrence threw another interception, but it didn't matter because the Titans had an aborted punt, which led to a Jacksonville field goal to make it an 8-point game at halftime. Tannehill then fired a rocket to DeAndre Hopkins, who left his fingerprints all over this game like they were a hotel room wall at the NFL Combine. Don't Google it. Down by 15, Trevor Lawrence turned the ball over, and it just became more and more of a slog. But eventually, he threw a touchdown to Evan Ingram, Giants legend, to make it an 8-point game. Tannehill threw an interception because that's what Tannehill does. And the Jags had a golden opportunity midway in the fourth to tie the game potentially, and they could not do it as Lawrence, his quarterback sneak, did not work. But he would get another chance afterwards as the defense sacked Tannehill, and Lawrence missed a wide open Ridley on a big play, and then he overthrew his guy on 3rd down, and then the absolute killer overthrowing Evan Ingram on 4th down to end the season. Reminiscent of Jake Weiler from Not Another Teen Movie. If you haven't seen it, then you need to go see it right now. Disappointing year for Trevor Lawrence. Green Bay versus Chicago. There were so few possessions in this game, I actually am able to go through all of them. The first one ended with the Bears kicking a field goal. The second one ended with the Packers missing a field goal. Bad kicker. Chicago punted. Then Green Bay threw a touchdown to go up 7-3. Chicago responded with a field goal to make it 7-6. Green Bay then stupidly mismanaged the clock, but it didn't matter in the end because on their first drive of the second half, they went up 14-6 on another touchdown pass by Jordan Love. Justin Fields took another drive-ending sack because he's terrible, as I've been saying for 3 years. Then Jordan Love fumbled. That was Jalen Hurts. People would be killing him, but because it's Jordan Love, they gave him a pass. Chicago kicked a field goal off it to make it a 5-point game early in the fourth, but the Packers responded with a field goal to make it an 8-point game. Still a one-possession game, though, and Justin Fields, didn't do shit with it. Jordan Love then milked the rest of the clock, made a couple great throws on 3rd down to set up Aaron Jones with the game-clinching 1st down run to send the Packers to the playoffs and win another edition of the most one-sided robbery since welfare respecter Brett Favre stepped into the picture in 1992. Seattle versus Arizona. The Seahawks entered with a slight chance to make the playoffs, but they ended up not making it. Either way, this was an extremely entertaining game that went down to the wire. Seahawks had a 7-point lead at halftime before cancer survivor James Conner ripped off a game-tying touchdown in the third. The Seahawks offense went completely dead. No offense to Queen Elizabeth. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, Kyler Murray threw an absolute rope for a touchdown in the end racism end zone to put the Cardinals up 7. The Cardinals had multiple chances to put this game away, but Matt Prater missed the field goal, Gary Anderson style, that would have put them up 10. And Geno Smith immediately threw a beautiful dime and then converted a 2-point conversion to give Seattle a 1-point lead with just under 2 minutes left. Kyler Murray did his part, moving the team down the field to set up Matt Prater with a game-winning 51-yard field goal, which again hooked wide right. What the hell is Brandy Love doing there? New Jersey versus Philly. I know all you sick bastards are thinking that I'm going to be so upset about the Eagles getting blown out by the Giants, and while I certainly am not happy about the fact that the Eagles got blown out to the point where they were down 24-0 before finally getting on the board in the second half, here's the facts. The Eagles are in the playoffs, which is really all I care about, and even if the Eagles had won this game, they still wouldn't have gotten the 2 seed because Dallas won their game in a blowout. We also get to play Tampa Bay on the road, so I'm not scared, and we're going to beat them. And the other thing, and I've said this before, is that no matter what I say, people are going to hate on the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. So I might as well be an arrogant dickhead about it, because guess what? Even if I'm humble, you're still going to hate. So all you Eagles haters can suck my dick from the back. We're still going to win the Super Bowl. Everybody's out on us right now, just like they were in 2017. Nobody gave us a chance. We're winning the Super Bowl. Get used to it. Buffalo versus Miami. With the division on the line, the game began looking like two morons played quarterback, as there were 3 interceptions combined in the first quarter, including a couple in the end zone by Josh Allen, before the Dolphins finally broke the seal and got on the board. Josh Allen then, of course, remembered, hey, I'm supposed to be good, and he threw a touchdown off of this incredibly accurate deflected pass, which tied the game at 7. But Tua then threw a dime and then threw a touchdown pass to 8-time Husband of the Year winner Tyreek Hill, which gave Miami a 14-7 lead. The Bills almost tied it at halftime, but because of bad clock management, much like the Packers, they went into halftime empty-handed. No offense to Shaquille Griffin. The third quarter saw nothing except Josh Allen make a couple more bad plays, including getting strip sacked, and honestly, Buffalo seemed dead in the water until the beginning of the fourth, when they returned a punt 95 yards for a touchdown. Unbelievable play by Josh Allen. The Dolphins offense then went cold, while Josh Allen finally put together a good drive, which ended with a touchdown pass with 7 minutes left to put Buffalo up by 7. Miami did nothing with it, and Buffalo would get the ball into Miami's range and had a chance to end the game for good on 4th and 1, but Josh Allen was stopped. Bad communication. Al-Qaeda would not be happy, giving Miami one more chance, and Tua said, you know what, I'm going to fucking throw this shit into double coverage for Chase Claypool, and that ended about exactly how you'd expect. The Bills win the AFC East for the 4th straight season, while the Dolphins continue to get killed in Japan. Time for the Week 18 Barry Awards, the last regular season Barry Awards of the year. Isn't that just so emotionally sad? Anyway, the Offensive Player of the Week goes to Nico Collins. He had 9 catches for 195 yards and a touchdown in Houston's win and in performance versus the Colts. My Defensive Player of the Week went to TJ Watt from the Steelers, even though he ended up getting hurt. He had 2 sacks, 8 combined tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 quarterback hits in Pittsburgh's win, which got them into the playoffs. My biggest loser of the week has to be Trevor Lawrence, and although he has become a decent quarterback, he has yet through 3 seasons become the dynamo superstar that was expected of him coming out of Clemson, and really since he was coming out of high school. This was a guy who, from his freshman season at Clemson when he won the national championship, teams were tanking for this guy a couple years ahead of time, and when Jacksonville got him, he had his terrible rookie year with Urban Meyer, and everyone gave him a pass for that, and I said, okay, I can understand that. And then last year he got off to a slow start before he picked it up at the end of the year, and it looked like he finally turned the corner, and then he threw 4 interceptions in that playoff game, had that comeback versus the Chargers. They won that game. They go to Kansas City, they lose in Kansas City, but everyone's thinking, hey, he's arrived, he gets all his MVP buzz this year, and he takes a step back, and he still hasn't been as good. And this was a winnable game. This was an extremely winnable game, talking about the Titans. The Jaguars at one point were 8-3, and they end up missing the playoffs, and their only win in the last month and a half of the season came against the Carolina Panthers with CJ Beathard at quarterback. Lawrence is still relatively young, and he's not terrible, but it's getting to the point now where he might just be merely good instead of generational. I mean, CJ Stroud is already better. A Tom Brady check down of the week goes to former Texas A&M wide receiver Ryan Tannehill for this beautiful screen pass. Tom Brady made a living off of this for 20 years. Never forget this. And now it's puppy time. And how about all you assholes who click out of puppy time? How about for once in your life you actually watch? It's not going to kill you. It's a bunch of adorable little dogs. And if you don't like dogs, then just suck it up and be a man. I'm challenging your manhood to sit and watch through puppy time. I guarantee you, you will be better off for it. Let's begin.